فلبي النداء تفز بالمرام فلبي النداء تفز بالمرام زكاتك.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. The issue of Zakat al-Fitr, we need to understand that rather it is a form of kafara, purification from any mistakes that we have made during Ramadan, and it is fard, obligation upon every single person to be paid before Salatul Eid. As Ibn Abbas reported that the Prophet ﷺ made Zakat al-Fitr compulsory so that those who fasted may be purified of their idle deeds and shameful talk, and so that the poor may be fed. Whoever gives it before Salah will have it accepted as Zakah, while he who gives it after the Salah has given only Sadaqah. And this is something very important to understand, so we realize the importance of it being an obligation. And how is it given? So Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu said, we used to give it at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a sa'ah of foodstuff, or a sa'ah of dates, a sa'ah of barley, or a sa'ah of raisins. And a sa'ah is like you put your two hands together, so whatever you get kind of in your hands. So if you will scoop your hands into the foodstuff, the dates or the barley, roughly speaking, it's between 2.2 to 2.5 kilograms, around 6.5 pounds of foodstuff. Now, as we know from the hadith, or from the saying of Ibn Abbas, that it was an obligation upon every single person, there is also another narration of Ibn Umar that reported that the Prophet ﷺ made Zakat al-Fitr compulsory on every slave, free man, male, female, young and old among the Muslims, one sa'ah of dried dates or sa'ah of barley. So what's clear from these sayings is that it was foodstuff, number one. Number two, it has to be given by everyone, including the slave as well. Okay? So it doesn't exempt the poor person. For example, if a relatively poor person has 10 kilograms of dates in his home, and 5 kilograms is sufficient for him, or enough for him, then the remaining 5 kilograms he has to give as Zakat al-Fitr on his behalf. Now some may say, well, he's a poor man, so why does he need to give it? Well, we know from the saying of Ibn Umar that even the slave had to give it, so the poor would give it. But remember, the purpose of zakah, generally, zakat al-mal or zakat al-fitr, is that money or foodstuff or your zakah, your charity, is circulated. So if the poor man has enough for himself and he gives the remainder, then others will also give him, because they know that he is poor in that sense. So therefore, it will go like as in a circle. Now, if people will say that, look, the Prophet ﷺ, or the ulama have stated that the Prophet ﷺ specifically said food and not money, because of the fact that there was currency in practice in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, obviously gold and silver, etc. Not what the currency we have today, but he had a currency in his time, and they were dealing with that currency, and therefore the Prophet ﷺ still made food as something specific. Now, amongst the classical ulama, the four madhahibs, the Malikiya and the Hanabila and the Shafi'iyya, all said that to give, majority of all of the ulama said to give foodstuff as Zakat al-Fitr. However, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi was the only one who actually said you can give it as money as well. And we know for a fact that during the time of Sufyan al-Thawri, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they used to give it as money. And Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah said, if there is more a need to give money than food, we give money, words to effect to his saying. So we asked the question, how do we balance between the ulama? Really is something that you need to decide in your heart and what you feel that has more of an evidence based upon Quran and Sunnah. And obviously the sayings of the ulama are a purpose for this ummah. The ulama are a guide for this ummah, and there will always be ikhtilaf and difference of opinion amongst the scholars, and there is no harm in this whatsoever as long as what they say is based upon Quran and Sunnah. And to make it clear, it needs to be given before Salatul Eid, and even some narrations suggest that the Prophet ﷺ used to give it one day before Eid, and some say even 2 days before Eid. But the point is, it must be given before Salatul Eid for those individuals, and it must be given, and the Zakat al-Fitr must be also distributed before Salatul Eid as well. And there's a big mistake that a lot of charities are making, where they are taking the Zakat al-Fitr and holding on to it. Now remember, the onus is on them, not on you, because you've given it before Eid Salah, and they know that it's obliging, fard, to give it. And anybody who gives the Zakat al-Fitr after Salatul Eid, it's only become sadaqah. In fact, you're sinful. You are sinful if you do not give it before Salatul Eid. And this is the problem with what a lot of masajids and a lot of other charities will do, hold on to the money or hold on to giving the Zakat al-Fitr until after Salatul Eid, and this is very, very dangerous. So really, advice is for all those that have to give it, they must give it before Salatul Eid, number one. Number two, if you are responsible for your household, you should give it on behalf of everyone. That's, for example, a husband must give it on behalf of his wife and his children. There is a very weak opinion which suggests even if she's pregnant, the wife is pregnant, you also give it on behalf of the unborn child. And there are narrations to say that Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu used to give it upon his unborn child. However, the obligation is upon those in your household, and some scholars even differ and say, for example, if a child is born on the day of Eid, and if the child is born before Salatul Eid, you still give Zakat al-Fitr on that child's behalf. But if it's born after Salatul Eid, then there is a difference of opinion. But the most important thing to remember is that Zakat al-Fitr must be given on behalf of everybody. And if somebody else pays on your behalf, there's no harm in it. Nothing wrong with that. And also remember that the figure that is given as £5, £4, £3, this is just a guide, right? So what is something that is worth 2.5 kilograms, such as the sa' of dates, then you're going to ask the question, which type of dates? Ajwa dates, majul dates? So you have to have a look at that as well. And to remember that you look at the reality of where you are. So if you're in the West, in the UK for example, and you want to give it as food stuff, then remember, not a lot of people's normal diet is dates and barley, right? So you can give it as rice as well. You can, some of the ulama say that, look, what is a meal for one person in a day? So I know it's a strange example to use, but for example, 2 pieces of chicken and chips, not that it's very healthy, but 2 pieces of chicken and chips and a drink cost anything from between £2.50 to up to £4, right? So somebody will say, well, I will give £2.50 as Zakat al-Fitr. Look, the reality is the onus is upon you as an individual to give your Zakat al-Fitr. And there's no harm if you give extra. It's better if you give extra. There is more reward for you to give extra, right? So the final advice is really to make sure that you give it on time before Salatul Eid, and ensure that it is distributed before the Salatul Eid as well. And the charities that are collecting the Zakat al-Fitr, it is wajib for you to do so. If you don't, there may be a matter of sin upon your neck. And therefore, my advice is those charities that are giving it, most of them you will see will have a deadline of at least a few days before day of Eid, because they will be responsible for taking that money and giving it to their partners in the relevant countries and buying the food stuff from it, or they may even give it as money. But as far as I'm aware, charities such as Aid Convoy is giving it according to the Sunnah as food stuff, and they have a deadline of at least 2 days before Salatul the day of Eid, sorry. Okay, so please make sure that you give your Zakat al-Fitr on time and work with those people who will also distribute it, and Allah knows best. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting and our Ramadan, and accept our Zakat al-Fitr. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.